Why do Christians sometimes keep their stories hidden in the shadows? You see, sharing our testimonies and our stories is like bearing our souls to the world. It requires us to step out from behind those walls we've built and let others glimpse our most intimate thoughts, struggles, and triumphs. It's not easy, not by a long shot, but it's in these moments of vulnerability that true connections are forged. So why do some Christians hold back from this incredible experience? First, I think there's a fear of judgment. They might judge us, right? What if they truly knew the depths of my depravity and brokenness or sin? But here's the thing. Our stories are uniquely ours, and they have the power to spark understanding and compassion. Remember, we're all on a journey. We're all broken vessels, and none of us has it all together. And when we start sharing our story, we start to realize that many of us are in the same similar boats, that we all need Jesus just as much as the next person. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to answer the question, why is it so hard to share our testimonies? And if you don't want to wait until the end of the video, I'll give you the number one reason I believe right now. I think it's so hard for us to share our testimonies and our stories because it requires us to be vulnerable. Yep, that beautifully messy, often intimidating word that's the key to unlocking a world of connection, intimacy, community, and growth. Today, I want to focus this conversation on why so many Christians hesitate to share their incredible stories and why so many of you hesitate to share your stories. So let's get into it. Why do Christians sometimes keep their stories hidden in the shadows? You see, sharing our testimonies and our stories is like bearing our souls to the world. It requires us to step out from behind those walls we've built and let others glimpse our most intimate thoughts, struggles, and triumphs. It's not easy, not by a long shot, but it's in these moments of vulnerability that true connections are forged. We're talking about those shared Me Too moments, the knowing nods, the genuine I've been there too smiles, right? So why do some Christians hold back from this incredible experience? First, I think there's a fear of judgment. You felt it, I've felt it, that gnawing concern that others might not understand, or worse yet, they might judge us, right? What if they truly knew the depths of my depravity and brokenness or sin? We worry that our stories might not fit the mold, that we'll be branded as different or unorthodox. But here's the thing. Our stories are uniquely ours, and they have the power to spark understanding and compassion. Remember, we're all on a journey. We're all broken vessels, and none of us has it all together. And when we start sharing our story, we start to realize that many of us are in the same and similar boats, that we're all a lot more similar to one another than we might have thought. And most importantly, that we all need Jesus just as much as the next person. Second, this is similar to the reason before it, but I think that there's a lot of guilt and shame that we still hold on to. Again, what if people really knew the depths of my sin and my brokenness? What if people really knew how sinful I really was, or maybe still am? What if they knew that I still struggle with many of the same things? A friend of mine, Lonnie Sawyer, has this great quote. He says, "Your level of freedom is directly connected to your ability to talk about it. When you can testify, when you can say what Jesus did, then you're free." Here's the problem with allowing our guilt and our shame to keep us from testifying of God's redemptive, gracious, merciful work in our lives. We're not truly walking in grace and forgiveness that God is offering when we hold on to that guilt and shame and allow it to keep us from giving Him glory for what He's done or is doing in our lives. You've been forgiven. Now forgive yourself and testify of what God has done in your life. The third reason that we don't share our stories, I think, is the complexity of our faith. Man, following Christ, it isn't easy, right? In fact, we're promised that being a follower of Christ won't be easy. Our beliefs, they're deep, they're multifaceted. Explaining them sometimes feels like trying to capture a galaxy within a snow globe. It's okay to struggle with expressing your faith. But guess what? Sharing your journey, even through the messy bits, can shed light on the beautiful tapestry of God's work in your life. Fourth, I think there are cultural and social factors that often play into the reason why we don't share our testimonies. We live in a world where diverse viewpoints collide and where societal pressures can drown out our voices. It's natural to fear the backlash, the raised eyebrows. But remember, our stories can bridge gaps and shatter stereotypes and create understanding where there was once division. Fifth, I think that it's a confidence issue or lack thereof. That can also be a major roadblock. You might be thinking, who am I to share my story? Well, let me tell you, you are uniquely you, and your experiences matter, right? Don't let self-doubt rob the world of incredible narrative that is your life. Sixth is the dreaded perceived relevance dilemma. Have you ever felt like your story won't resonate, that it's just a drop in the ocean? Or maybe you have felt that you don't have a story at all. I've been there, but let me remind you, every story matters. Your story could be the one that ignites a spark of hope in someone else's heart. Remember, we're talking specifically about testimonies. These are death-to-life transformation stories. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but the power of your story is not in your sin, but in the redemptive work of Christ in your life. And that's what makes it powerful. Seventh, I think the fear of being found out keeps us from sharing our stories. Right? Sometimes we're afraid that if people knew our past, our struggles and our doubts, they might question our faith. But hey, none of us has it all figured out. Our stories are a testament to God's grace and his transformative power. They're a reminder that he's still working in us, holding us and molding us into something beautiful. 8, and these reasons are some of the heavyweights, pride and fear. Pride can whisper, you're too important to be vulnerable. This can be especially difficult for ministry leaders. What if people really knew who you were? What if what you've done or what you struggle with? Fear can shout out, you're not good enough to share your story. But guess what? Humility is a strength, and confronting fear head on leads to growth and freedom. And lastly, and the main reason I believe keeps us from sharing our stories and testifying of God's redemptive work in our lives, vulnerability. Many of the reasons we've already discussed fall into this main category. Sharing our stories requires us to be vulnerable because it requires us to be honest with where we are at. It requires us to be real with our struggles and our doubts. It requires us to shed light on the things that we want to hide in the darkness. It requires us to confront difficult things in our lives that we don't want to confront. Vulnerability requires us to admit that we don't have it all together and that we have doubts about our faith. But be encouraged, because when we are vulnerable, it opens up doors and opportunities for deeper intimacy and connection with those around us. Being vulnerable deepens our relationships with the people closest to us, and even those that we don't know. It allows others to get a glimpse into the deepest places of our heart, soul, and mind. And in all circumstances, when we get to that deeper look, we empathize and have compassion for those who are sharing their stories, because we could begin to relate to them at a deeply emotional level. Vulnerability is a doorway into greater intimacy and deeper relationship with everyone involved. It's time to break free from the fear of being vulnerable. It's time to step into the light and let your story shine. Remember Revelation 12:11. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, for they loved not their lives even unto death. Our stories have power, the power to push back darkness, the power to inspire change, the power to bring glory to God. It won't be easy, but nothing worth doing ever is. Embrace vulnerability. Wear it like armor. Share your story, whether it's a tale of redemption, of struggle, doubt, or unshakable faith. We're created in the image of a storyteller. If we call ourselves his disciples, then we should at least be capable storytellers. Let's be a people of God that are a storytelling people. Let's create a world where our stories connect us, they lift us up, and push us closer to the one who authored our faith. Remember, your story matters, and your voice deserves to be heard. All right, so go out there and share your story. Thanks for listening.